Hello, everybody. Cody Felger here, and Andrew Thomison with me, and we wanted to address something that a lot of Colts fans are kind of freaking out about, and it's the Andrew Luck situation. So if you're not familiar, Andrew Luck has been sitting out of basically the entire spring because of an injured calf. Frank Reich has insisted it's not really that serious. It was just keeping him out as a precautionary thing. And so he'd been practicing a little bit, and he sort of suffered, I think, a little bit of a setback. And I know that when you hear setback and everything, it can potentially be a little bit scary. And so we just wanted to kind of address the Andrew Luck situation, hopefully put some fans' minds at ease, because I know it's a little bit scary not knowing about Andrew Luck, especially considering him missing an entire season a couple years ago. And so I admittedly don't know a whole lot about this situation, but Andrew, you do. You wanted to make a few comments about it. So, man, take it away.
Hey there, Colts fans. Before I go ahead and go into anything, just a disclaimer, I don't work for the Indianapolis Colts in any way, but I have been keeping up, just as many of you, on the Andrew Luck calf situation, and I'm here to reassure you, or I should say give my personal opinion on what I think is happening. First of all, I'd like to point out that in an interview just recently, Andrew Luck opened up about the details of his injury, and we all know Andrew Luck to be a very private person, and for him to open up about the details of his injury is very rare. So I think that speaks volumes in terms of the severity of the injury. Yes, he's been dealing with it for the last 2 to 3 months. I think it's been a calf strain this whole time, and I think that he maybe have just re-aggravated it, and I think that the Colts are just being really precautionary and letting him sit and letting him rest because they don't want it to turn into potentially what Kevin Durant went through in the NBA playoffs. And so I think when you look at what Andrew Luck said, he had several x-rays done. There was no swelling. There was no indication of anything being torn. And when you look at a recent tweet from Tom Parasolo that says, quote, "No more doctor appointments scheduled, no more scans, no surgery. In fact, I'm told Luck did some throwing today." Mind you, this was on July 30th during camp, just not in practice. Calf strain lingering, so he wants to scale back and calm it down. Colts letting their star quarterback work through the process. And I think that's the biggest thing here, Colts fans, is letting Andrew Luck work through the process. When you look at as many injuries that he's unfortunately had over his short career, nobody knows his body, better than he does. And I think that he understands where he's at, and I think that he'll be just fine and he'll be ready to go week 1. So I think that we shouldn't worry about it too much. And I know the media and different shows and different, different media members, they're going to have their personal take on it. But at the end of the day, like I said, Andrew Luck knows his body better than anybody, and he's been really honest with the organization and the doctors. There's no need for surgery. Again, there's no swelling. There's no tearing. I think it's just a calf strain that's been re-aggravated, and I think it's best to just let him sit out for as long as he needs, and let his body do the work.
Yeah, and just to add on to your point, Andrew, so I remember Andrew Luck a couple years ago when he suffered that setback, that injury that took him out for the entire year. He admitted that he skipped steps a lot of times in trying to get recovery and trying to get back onto the field because he obviously is a major competitor, wants to do everything he can to get on the field. And so he wasn't honest with himself, he said, wasn't honest with how his body was feeling. And now, for the first time, Frank Reich is telling him, like, dude, be honest with yourself. Be honest with your body, and Andrew Luck is. And I know it's hard for him to not be out there right now, but ultimately it's like, I kind of look at it as like, would you rather Andrew Luck rush himself back like he has before, potentially injure himself, be out for longer, or would you rather him set out a few preseason games, potentially even set out the entire preseason, but be as healthy as he can be going into week 1? And so, and also another comment that Frank Reich had made is like, if this was the regular season, say the Colts played the Chargers next Thursday, like they're going to play their first preseason game, Frank Reich has said, like, yeah, Andrew Luck would be out there. He would be out there. So I think that should keep fans' minds at ease a little bit to, like, this injury is not a serious injury. It's just, like you mentioned, Andrew, purely precautionary. The Colts want to be as cautious as they can with Andrew Luck. And it's not like it's his throwing shoulder or something like that where it's like, okay, now it should be a major, major concern for us. It's more like the Colts just want to be as cautious as they can with Andrew Luck. They want him to be completely honest with them. And yeah, there might be a little bit of concern with just the whole mobility type thing of like when you're running. And I think that's kind of how Andrew Luck kind of aggravated it a little bit, was he was on the move trying to cut, do those things in the pocket like he always does. And it kind of flared up a little bit. I know, Andrew, there was something you were going to talk about a little bit about the difference between, when Andrew Luck was asked about it a little bit, how he kind of had mentioned it and how it would be different than, if he had said something else. So I'll let you kind of go into that and kind of mention what you were talking to me about a little bit before we pressed record on the podcast.
Absolutely, Cody. I couldn't agree with you more with everything you said. And another thing, too, with Luck, he stressed this, and I'm paraphrasing here. He said that he's not looking to be average, and that he knows if he goes out and tries to play on this calf injury and aggravates it even further or potentially makes it worse, he's going to be average, and that's not good enough for him. It's not good enough for, he said, quote, ball club or this ball club. Obviously, he meant the Indianapolis Colts. And so I think when you look at the calf strain as a whole, and you compare it to if it was maybe something like a shoulder or a kidney or a hand, then, Colts fans and media, rightfully so, should be more concerned if it was something of that nature, something more severe. But I think because it's a calf, and like I said earlier, Luck said it's just a minor calf strain, and that he's had x-rays taken, and that there's no swelling, there's no sign of tearing. Tom Paracello's tweet said that there's no more doctor appointments scheduled. And like you said, Cody, it's just a precautionary thing. They're just letting him sit it out and let his body do the healing for him. And I think Andrew Luck will be in good shape come week 1 because of it.
Yeah, and also, honestly, the Colts have 5 weeks till the regular season starts. Andrew Luck has plenty of time to recover, to rest from this. And, you mentioned it, Andrew, Andrew Luck's not going to play next week. He probably won't play the second week. He may not honestly play the entire preseason. And I know that reps are important. I don't want to understress that, but Andrew Luck has pretty good chemistry with a good majority of his players outside of Devin Funchess, and really just Devin Funchess and Paris Campbell. Andrew Luck has a pretty good rapport, and I think that he, will get that rapport. He's still been throwing to them in training camp. It's not like he hasn't ever thrown to any of these guys ever before. So he's thrown to them before, and I think that it may take a little bit of time to get on track with some of them, but overall I think that Andrew Luck has pretty good chemistry with most of his players. He's played with a good majority of the players on his roster. And so, Andrew, is there anything else you wanted to say before we get going, before we wrap up this podcast?
I think that's it. I think between what you and I have talked about, I think we've covered pretty much most of the Andrew Luck injury, and as you and I have both stated, I think he'll be just fine going into week 1. Right now it's just a matter of rest and getting ready to go for the 2019 season.
So don't worry, Colts fans. I think everything will be all right. So thanks, guys, for listening. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and yeah, go Colts.